Hello, everyone. June is Pride Month, but there can't be any physical celebrations this year because of the pandemic, which makes me quite sad. Usually, every year, I like going to watch the Pride Parade in London. So, yeah, it's a shame that can't happen. So, to make up for it, I thought I would make a TBR list of LGBT books that I want to read over the course of the month. I don't expect to read all of these, but, it's fun to make a list and try to get to some of these books that I've been meaning to for quite a while. And you know how I love a t-shirt, so I'm wearing a t-shirt of Tatiana, who is one of my favorite queens from Drag Race. I just love her. Yeah, just wanted to show off that first as well. So the first novel I want to talk about is Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. This is a novel that came out last year in which I kept meaning to read, and it's and this also sort of crosses over with I made a TBR list for the Caribathon, and this is an author from Jamaica. And the novel is about a woman who leaves her life in Jamaica and her family in Jamaica. She has a daughter there, and she moves to New York City to pursue a woman who was her childhood love, and to make a new life for herself in the United States. And then finds when she gets there, things are much different from what her friend describes them as. And so it follows her story, but then also the story of her daughter back in Jamaica, who herself is wrestling with issues of sexuality and gender. And yeah, following those two stories, yeah, sounds very good. And I've never read this author before. This is her second novel, but yeah, very keen to try it. Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jedrowski. This is a novel that was published a few months ago, and I've heard so many great things about, both from friends of mine in real life and also booktubers who've been really highly recommending it. And it's about the relationship between two men in Poland in 1980, and yeah, it's meant to be amazing. The Clothesline Swing by Ahmed Dani Ramadan, and this is a novel about two male lovers in Syria who make a journey to try to make a new home for themselves in Canada. And it's based on 1001 Nights, where one of the men tells stories to the other men during their journeys. It's meant to be a really beautifully written novel. Black Wave by Michelle T. This is an author I've been meaning to read for a long time, and was very intrigued by this novel when it came out a couple of years ago. So this is described as an apocalyptic riot girl tale of queer sex, drugs, and self-destruction in 1990s California. And that just sounds so good and intriguing to me. Although I've heard very mixed things about this. I remember when this came out, a number of booktubers had some quite critical opinions about it. And I remember one booktuber describing it as vulgar. But that honestly, that just sort of intrigues me and makes me want to read it more. So yeah, definitely interested in trying and seeing what I make of it myself. Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones. This is a relatively new novel. I think it only came out a couple months ago and is very short. Usually Adam Mars Jones, he writes quite long novels, so this is quite different from him. But it's about two gay bikers in the 1970s, which just sounds awesome. Then I have a book of poetry called Life Mask by Jackie Kay, and I've not read this collection before, but I've read a lot of Jackie Kay's writing before. She writes in all genres. She has a fantastic novel called Trumpet, and she's written short stories and poetry and drama, and she wrote an incredible memoir called Red Dust Road, which I'd hugely recommend if you've not read this. It's so fascinating and interesting. So Jackie Kay was adopted by two white Scottish parents, and but she goes back to Nigeria to find her actual biological father and try to establish a connection with him, and finds that he's extremely religious, which clashes slightly because she's a lesbian. So but yeah, I'm really keen to read this collection called Life Mask. And I think many of the poems are meant to be love poems. So if I'm sort of in a romantic mood. And then I have some nonfiction. I have a biography of Gertrude Stein called Everybody Who Was Anybody, written by Janet Hobhouse. And Gertrude Stein is one of those figures has always fascinated me. I've read a number of nonfiction accounts where Gertrude Stein is sort of a figure in the background, but I never really know much about her personally, of her biographical details. So yeah, I'm keen to read more about her life. And obviously Gertrude Stein is famous for writing a book called The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, which she writes in the voice of her life partner, but obviously she's the one writing her autobiography, not her partner. And also I'm keen to know more about Gertrude Stein because the writer Deborah Levy, she's writing a new novel called the Mama of Dada, which is an amazing title for a novel. So I sort of want to have some background about Gertrude Stein before reading that novel about that involves Gertrude Stein in some way. I heard about this new novel she's writing from her editor, who posted about it on Twitter, and yeah, so I'll be quite keen to read this soon. And I have another book which I've been meaning to read for quite a while because multiple booktubers have recommended it over time, which is I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya, who is a Canadian author that often writes about transgendered issues and queer issues, and yeah, very excited to read. And then finally, I have this new edition of a classic gay text, which is De Profundis by Oscar Wilde, that's published by the Folio Society with a new introduction by Patti Smith. I talked about this recently in a book haul that I did, and how this was a letter that Oscar Wilde wrote while he was in prison, directed to his lover Bosie, but also includes his meditations about life and sexuality, and yeah, it's such an amazing document that we have. So those are all the books that I'm hoping to get to over the course of Pride Month, so yeah, let me know if you've read any of these and your thoughts about them, or other books that you're hoping to read over the course of Pride Month, or other sort of online celebrations that you know about that are happening for Pride Month, since they can't take place in real life. Let's have a chat in the comments below, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye, everyone.